There's an island in Fiji so private, only 14 couples are allowed on it at a time. No bridge, no road. The only way off is the open water. Remember that because one night someone used it to run. You arrive by seaplane. The water underneath shifts from deep navy to a blue so clear it doesn't look real. $3,500 a night, and it's all inclusive, which does something strange to visitors. People who fast all year back home will sit down and force through 3 giant meals a day out here, not out of hunger, out of math. At these prices, you get your money's worth out of paradise. And it tells you something about this place. Turtle Island sells a fantasy, a private world where nothing bad has ever happened. People come here to switch off, to stop watching each other. Remember that one too? It's about to matter. To understand the gravity of the crime that shattered this paradise, you first have to understand the exact weight of the life that was taken. This is the story of Christe Chen. If you went back just a few years, you'd find her 1,000 miles from any ocean, in Denver, running a boutique bakery she built from scratch called Sweet as Pie. She loved sweets so much, she made a business out of them, spending her mornings surrounded by sugar and dough. But Christe was a person who constantly challenged herself. She eventually walked away from the bakery to enroll in one of the most demanding doctoral paths in medicine, the Doctor of Pharmacy program. At the University of Tennessee, she didn't just pass, she won a national award for excellence in clinical communication, using her mind to make complicated medicine understandable to ordinary, frightened people. Off the clock, her life carried that same drive. She fostered dogs, filled prescriptions for her neighbors at a Memphis grocery counter, and trained for a marathon to raise money for St. Jude Children's Hospital. The only child of Zhao Wei Lu and Tao Chen, their little girl, remember her like this: warm, driven, mid-30s with a mapped-out future, because a shadow is about to move across it. In November of 2021, Christe meets that man. His name was Bradley Robert Dawson, a 38-year-old information technology professional. What follows is a whirlwind, and in this case, the speed is the story. They meet in November. Just 90 days later, on February 18th, they marry in an intimate ceremony in Memphis. Walk into that wedding reception. Look closely at the faces of Christe's friends. Many are meeting the groom for the very first time today. Watch the quiet math happening behind their smiles. They are asking themselves, who is this man? Meanwhile, Christe stands at the center of the room, radiant, certain. According to legal filings and media reports surrounding the case, Dawson's past marriage was reportedly still ending when he met Christe, with his divorce papers finalized only around that time. Whatever the exact timeline, what is solid, the couple married by February, and they postponed the honeymoon. By late February, the wedding is over, but they put off the honeymoon until July. The destination they choose is Fiji, but Fiji wasn't a random choice. According to the Chen family's attorney in a subsequent lawsuit, Dawson had allegedly taken his previous wife to these exact same islands. The attorney claimed it appears Christe only discovered this on their very last night alive. Let that sink in. You are on a luxury island only to realize you are retracing the steps of his past life. On July 7th, 2022, they land on that private island at the edge of the map. 48 hours later, the honeymoon will turn into a manhunt. Walk down the shoreline past the main pavilion to Bure 15. On Turtle Island, these private bungalows are built for total seclusion, screened by tropical foliage right on the water. It is exactly the kind of isolation you pay thousands of dollars to experience. Go back to the evening of July 8th. The couple is sitting at the resort's floating bar, drinking. According to witnesses, Bradley begins dancing with a female staff member. To those watching, it reportedly crosses a line. giving the impression of being highly inappropriate for a groom on his honeymoon. Nearby, Christe is watching, and the staff notices her expression freeze. She looks visibly upset. Watch the temperature drop. Later, other guests hear them arguing over dinner. Whatever is being said, the tension follows them out of the restaurant. Security guards watch them walk down the dark sand paths together. At the end of that path is the door to Bure 15. They step inside. It is the night of July 8th, 2022. What happens next inside that bungalow has no eyewitnesses, but the surrounding island leaves a trail of clues. In a neighboring Bure, a vacationer wakes up to the sound of loud, violent banging coming from Bure 15. Then, a sharp scream, a heavy, solid thud, and then total silence. The resort reportedly received a noise complaint that night, but in a place where privacy is paramount, the door remains closed. No one knocks. The hours tick away in darkness. Morning arrives. That was the true flaw in this paradise. A resort designed so deeply around isolation that 14 couples can live side by side while remaining in entirely separate worlds, where the unwritten rule to mind your own business ensures no one steps in, even when a room turns into a trap. July 9th. The resort moves through its ordinary breakfast routine, but the table for Bure 15 is empty. Midday arrives, lunch is served. Still, their door remains closed. No movement, no sound. By afternoon, the unease is climbing. A resort worker finally walks down the path, steps onto the porch, and knocks. Step inside. The scene investigators find is inside the bathroom. A broken window pane, heavy damage to the toilet and its fixtures. Blood. And Christe, found slumped against the toilet, dead. When police later interrogate Dawson, he admits the argument turned physical in that exact bathroom. He claims she fell. He tells them she was hurt, that there was a cut on her face, and that he saw the blood. But the medical examiner notes something far worse, severe, repeated blunt force trauma to her head and body. And when the resort staff finally pushes that bathroom door open, Bradley Dawson is gone. How do you escape an island with no bridge and no road? You use the water. Sometime in the dark hours of July 9th, Bradley Dawson walks down to the resort's beach. He pulls a plastic recreational kayak into the surf. These small boats are built for shallow lagoons, for tourists paddling a few yards from the safety of the shore. They are not engineered for the open ocean. Yet Dawson climbs in, digs his paddle into the water, and vanishes into the open Pacific, alone, in total darkness. Look at the map of this crossing. Miles of deep, unpredictable black water separate Turtle Island from the next inhabited land. This wasn't a sudden panic to clear his head. This was a deliberate ocean transit, an IT professional executing a cold calculation to put distance between himself and the bathroom of Bure 15. Every stroke of his paddle moves him further away from the body of his wife. The ocean at night is unforgiving. Without a GPS watch or a phone, the tracking devices he deliberately left on the counter, he has no navigation tools. He is navigating purely by the dark silhouettes of distant volcanic islands against the stars. The current in the channel is strong, pulling at the light plastic kayak. For hours, he pushes through the swells, a man running from what he left behind. He was carrying things. That's what turns a flight into a decision. When the tide finally carries his kayak onto the shores of neighboring Matacawalevu Island the next day, he doesn't look like a vacationer. He is completely exhausted, drenched in salt water, and severely dehydrated. To anyone looking at him, he appears completely out of it, swaying, disoriented, and slurring. The physical toll of a grueling night on the open sea, mimicking the heavy fog of intoxication. But his mind had been clear enough to pack. When local police search his wet clothing, they find a collection of items that completely shatters any defense of a panicked accident. They find his passport, his wallet, his driver's license, and Christie's identification. He has her credit cards, his own cards, and over $1,100 in cash. Think about that inventory. He left his wife's body on a bathroom floor, but he took the time to systematically empty her purse. He packed her identity and her money into his pockets before paddling out into the ocean. During his legal hearings, prosecutors point out the chilling logic behind this choice. As an IT professional, Dawson knew exactly how modern digital tracking worked. He knew that if he kept his smartphone or his GPS smartwatch, law enforcement could ping his location instantly. So he left them sitting in plain sight on the counter inside the room. He abandoned the items that could broadcast his location and kept only the cash and the passports, the raw tools required to cross an international border. To the court, this wasn't the behavior of a panicked, grieving husband who simply ran because he was scared. It looked like a highly calculated, cold-blooded escape plan. But the ocean only took him so far. The flight ends on a quiet, isolated beach on Matacawalevu. A local villager named Manoa Ratulele is sitting on the sand, looking out at the water, when he notices a completely drenched, disheveled stranger stumbling out of the brush. The man is covered in sand, his clothes soaked through, looking entirely defeated by the crossing. The stranger stops, looks at the villager, and gives a cold, blunt instruction: call the police. Whatever that crossing was meant to accomplish, it delivered Dawson straight into the hands of the people who would hold him for it. This is what Bradley Dawson's defense asked the court to believe. They argued that his statement to police was never a confession to murder. They claimed the argument simply got out of hand between two people that Dawson panicked, freaked out, and paddled away in a kayak. His lawyers pressed the point that Dawson carried no physical injuries of his own, the kind of violent struggle usually leaves behind, and that leaving his phone and watch behind proved he hadn't meticulously planned an escape. But the court had to weigh those arguments against the cold reality of the autopsy. The medical report described severe swelling around both of Christie's eyes and across her mouth. Bruising and deep cuts marked her right arm. At the back of her head, a large, gaping wound. The official cause of death was homicide by severe, repeated blunt force trauma to the head and body. A single accidental fall does not cause injuries like that. The case was decided by Justice Riaz Hamza in a judge-alone trial. After hearing from 14 witnesses, including forensic experts, resort staff, and law enforcement, the verdict came down: guilty of murder. The judge stated he was satisfied beyond a shadow of a doubt that Dawson and no one else committed the crime. Fiji's mandatory penalty for murder is life imprisonment. Dawson was sentenced to life, with a strict minimum of 18 years behind bars before a pardon can even be considered. The judge did not mince words about Dawson's actions after the attack, calling his conduct appalling for inflicting those injuries and then fleeing the island, leaving Christe entirely alone and helpless. But the heaviest weight of this story belongs to Christe's parents. Because her injuries were so severe, her body could not be safely embalmed for the long flight back to the United States. Xiao Wei Lu and Tao Chen, the parents of an only child, could not bring their daughter home the way she left. They had to cremate her in Fiji and carry her home in an urn. Her father told the court she was his only child, his little girl, his entire reason for living. A pastry chef who loved sweetness, a pharmacist who wanted the forgotten to be understood, a woman who fostered dogs and ran for sick children. Remember her like that. Not for the bathroom in Bure 15, but for the warmth she carried into every room before it.